There's a strange sort of silence that creeps into a marriage before it dies. Not the quiet comfort people talk about, the kind where you can sit together without needing to speak. No, this was a tense, sharp silence, the kind that hums under your skin and makes you second-guess every word you're about to say. That's the air that filled my house every night after Ashley started working late at her new marketing job. New clothes, new perfume, new laugh, the kind of laugh she used to save just for me, now thrown around like spare change at strangers. It wasn't jealousy that ate me up at first. It was confusion. You don't wake up one day and find yourself a stranger to the woman you've slept next to for 7 years unless something real, something raw, has shifted. She didn't even bother to hide her boredom when we were together anymore. Dinner conversations turned into monologues about people I didn't know, inside jokes I wasn't part of. Every now and then she'd glance at me across the table like I was a piece of furniture slightly out of place. I wasn't stupid enough to confront her without proof. Ashley was quick with her words, sharper than anyone I'd ever met. She could spin a story out of nothing, drip just enough guilt into her voice to make you wonder if you were the real problem all along. I needed something solid, something she couldn't wriggle away from. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. It felt dirty enough to think about recording my own wife, but the not knowing was worse. So one Sunday afternoon, while she was out with friends, I found the spare keys to her car, slipped a tiny recorder into the glove box, and drove her car around the block once to make sure it stayed hidden under the sound of the engine. Then I parked it exactly how she left it, like nothing had ever happened. I waited 3 days before I touched the recorder again. 3 nights of lying awake while she showered late and fell into bed with fake yawns and colder skin. I almost didn't listen. Part of me thought maybe not knowing would be easier. Maybe there were things better left buried. But when she left for another mysterious evening, I sat at my desk, took a deep breath, and pressed play. At first, it was nothing. Just static and the rumble of tires on the road. A few calls about work, laughter, bad pop songs buzzing through the speakers. Then voices, not hers, but a man's, low and familiar, laughing too easily at her jokes. Then Ashley's voice, soft at first, then sharper, more playful, layered with a giddiness I hadn't heard in years. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. They talked about hotels, about sneaking around, about how he's too dumb to ever catch on, followed by laughter that cut straight through my chest like a blade. Every word confirmed what I had refused to let myself believe. But the real blow, the thing that knocked the breath out of me, didn't come from Ashley's voice. It came when another woman joined the conversation halfway through the recording. A woman whose voice I recognized instantly, Ashley's mother, Diane. I sat frozen, the blood pounding in my ears, as Diane laughed along with them, made jokes about how Ashley deserved better than that boring husband, suggested ways to hide their little outings, even offered to cover for her if I ever got suspicious. It was one thing for Ashley to betray me. It was another thing entirely to realize her own family was helping her do it. I sat there long after the recording ended, the house stretching into a suffocating, endless quiet around me. Part of me wanted to rip everything down, the wedding photos on the walls, the memories we had built. But a colder, quieter part of me was already planning. I wasn't going to confront her like some lost, desperate husband begging for the truth. I wasn't going to scream or cry or demand explanations. She thought she was smarter than me, that she was untouchable, hidden behind lies and false smiles. She had no idea what was coming. The garage door rattled shut behind me as I tucked the recorder back into my jacket pocket. I didn't rush. I didn't storm inside like some furious cartoon character. No, I moved slow, controlled. If Ashley and Diane thought they had mapped out every move I'd make, they were about to find out how wrong they were. Ashley was already home. I could hear the TV blaring from the living room, the sound of some shallow reality show laughing in the background. She was sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone like she had the world on a leash. When she saw me, she tossed it onto the coffee table without even pretending to care where it landed. "Hey," she said lazily, stretching like a cat. "Fake as ever. You're back early. Thought you were helping Mike with his garage door." Mike. Another excuse. Another loose thread I could have yanked right then. But I didn't. I forced a smile, sat down in the armchair across from her, and watched her. Really watched her. The way she shifted under my gaze, the small tightening of her mouth, the glance toward her phone. I leaned forward slowly, elbows on my knees, and said, almost casually, "Ran into your mom today." Ashley stiffened, just for a second. It was small, almost invisible, but I caught it. She forced a laugh, too loud for the empty house. "Oh yeah? How's she doing?" "She told me something interesting." I said it low, almost bored. I wanted to see if she'd flinch again. She didn't. Instead, she tilted her head and gave me that same sickly sweet smile she used on waiters she thought were beneath her. "Diane says a lot of things," she said lightly. "You know how she is. She told me you're cheating on me." There it was, a flicker in her eyes. Fear? No, calculation. Ashley didn't do fear. She did damage control. I could practically see the gears grinding behind her pretty face, scrambling for the right story, the right lie. Her mouth twisted into an offended sneer. "Are you serious? My mother said that? She's been drinking again. She's losing it, you know that." No hesitation. No guilt. Just a full-speed pivot, turning the bus straight toward her own mother without blinking. I sat back, letting her spin her story out, pretending to weigh her words. But inside I was boiling. Not just from the betrayal, from the sheer disrespect. She didn't even think I deserved a good lie. I pulled the recorder from my jacket pocket and set it gently on the coffee table between us. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Her face drained of color. She didn't reach for it. Didn't even move. Just stared at it like it was a loaded weapon pointed at her chest. And for once, she had no quick escape, no ready-made script to flip the narrative. The silence between us stretched until it was suffocating. When she finally spoke, her voice was brittle, desperate, but wrapped in that same fake arrogance. "You seriously went through my car? What the hell is wrong with you? That's insane." "You're right," I said quietly. "It's insane to trust you." Her eyes narrowed into slits. The fake tears she was trying to summon dried up before they even started. Instead, she went straight for the throat, voice rising, sharp and ugly. "You were never enough for me anyway," she snapped. "You think buying a house and showing up for dinner makes you a real man? You think that's what I'm supposed to settle for?" It hit me harder than I thought it would, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing it. I just stared at her, taking in the cruel twist of her mouth, the venom dripping off every word. The woman in front of me wasn't the Ashley I had married. Maybe she never was. "You're pathetic," she spat. "No wonder my mom laughed about it. She knew you couldn't handle someone like me." There it was. The truth, ugly and bare. She didn't just cheat on me, she hated me for trusting her. She despised me for loving her. I stood up slowly, the recorder still sitting untouched between us. For a second, she looked like she was about to say more, to throw one last grenade into the rubble she had made of our life. But I beat her to it. "Keep everything," I said, voice steady. "The house, the car, all of it. You'll need it to fill the hole where your soul should be." Her mouth snapped shut. For the first time all night, she had no comeback. I didn't slam the door behind me when I left. I didn't shout or throw anything. I walked out with everything I needed, the truth. And for the first time in months, the silence felt clean. I didn't go far. Just down the street, parked under the dead yellow glow of a street lamp, engine ticking as it cooled. My hands sat still on the steering wheel, but my mind spun so fast it made me dizzy. You always think you'll feel free once the truth comes out. Like ripping off a dirty bandage. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with nothing but jagged rocks waiting below. I didn't want her to follow. I didn't want a pathetic apology or a fake explanation cooked up with whatever scraps of dignity she had left. But even then, even after everything, a part of me was wired to expect it. Some tiny, battered part still hoped she'd come running after me. Crying, sorry, wanting to fix what she broke. Instead, my phone buzzed against the center console. I didn't recognize the number, but something about it made my stomach twist. I answered. It wasn't Ashley. It was Diane. Her voice was sharp, not trembling, not embarrassed, angry, like I had ruined her evening. "You had no right to set Ashley up like that," she hissed, like we were conspirators caught mid-heist. "You've humiliated her. You've humiliated yourself. I almost laughed. Humiliated? She sounded like we were at some high school talent show and I'd flubbed a magic trick. I stayed quiet, letting her fill the silence with her pathetic self-justifications. You pushed her away. You know that, don't you? Diane continued, her voice dripping that same manipulative poison Ashley had perfected. If you had been a real husband, she wouldn't have had to find comfort somewhere else. There it was, the final gut punch. Not only had they betrayed me together, they were now trying to rewrite the story, make me the villain in a nightmare I didn't even know I was living. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just ended the call. Mid-sentence. No goodbye. Let her talk to the dead air. I sat there for another long moment, feeling a new kind of cold settle in my chest. Not sadness. Not rage. Something simpler. Something cleaner. Clarity. I pulled up my contacts, scrolled down to Ashley's number, and blocked it. Then I blocked Diane's too. I wasn't going to play their game. I wasn't going to let them stitch their ugly little version of the truth into my skin. But the night wasn't done with me yet. Not even close. Less than an hour later, as I sat in a 24-hour diner nursing the worst cup of coffee I'd ever tasted, a new number lit up my phone. I almost ignored it, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. I picked up, ready to end the call if it was another round of blame and bile. But it wasn't Diane. It wasn't Ashley either. It was a man's voice. Low. Careful. He asked my name. Confirmed it twice like he couldn't believe it. Then he said the words that twisted the knife even deeper. I think we need to talk, he said quietly. It's about Ashley. I think she's been lying to both of us. Both of us. Both. Of. Us. The world shifted under my feet. Because as bad as tonight had been, as brutal as the betrayals already felt, I realized I didn't even know the whole story yet. Not even close. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the screen like the voice might crawl out of the speaker if I waited long enough. Outside the diner window, rain started slicing through the air, sharp and cold. It fit the night, ugly, raw, relentless. Who are you? I finally asked. There was a pause on the other end. I could hear the hum of traffic, a siren wailing somewhere far behind him. Then he said his name. Tyler. It meant nothing to me. Another faceless stranger folded into the wreckage of my life. But Tyler kept talking. I was with Ashley, he said, and I heard it, the same bitterness, the same raw edge cutting through his voice. I thought I was the only one. The words hit me like a slap. I gripped the edge of the table, feeling the sticky surface under my fingertips. This wasn't some nameless guy Shed used once or twice. Tyler was invested. Caught up. Lied to just like me. You should see it for yourself, he said. She's not what she says she is. Not to me. Not to you. Not to anybody. He told me where he was. A parking lot 2 towns over. Neutral ground. I should have hung up. I should have gone home, packed a bag, started the slow, bloody work of cutting Ashley out of my life. Instead, I found myself gripping the wheel, driving through the rain, chasing down whatever sick, twisted truth was still hiding. The lot was half-lit, rows of shuttered stores looming in the dark like broken teeth. Tyler leaned against a battered black pickup, hood up, head down against the rain. When he saw me, he straightened but didn't come closer. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Maybe he hadn't. He pulled something from his jacket. A phone. Scratched, cracked at the edges, but still working. She gave me this, he said. For emergencies. So we could keep in touch. He unlocked it and scrolled through messages. He didn't have to show me much. It was all there, bright and rotten. Ashley making plans. Ashley sending selfies. Ashley promising him the same things she used to whisper to me in the dark. But it wasn't just that. There were messages about others. Plural. Other guys. Other parking lots. Other fake names and fake stories. Tyler and I weren't enemies. We were just names on a list. She told me you were abusive, Tyler said, voice low, like he hated even saying it out loud. That you trapped her. That she was scared to leave. It was almost funny. Almost. If it hadn't been my life, she was painting black just to justify what she was doing. She said you'd follow her. Tyler went on. Hurt her if she tried to get away. The pieces slammed together so fast it made my head spin. The fake sympathy from Diane. The sudden coldness from Ashley. The way she picked fights, escalated everything, baited me to snap, so she could have her clean little story ready. I wasn't just the boring husband in their version of events. I was the villain. Ashley wasn't planning to confess. She was planning to destroy me before I could even react. Tyler must have seen something crack across my face because he stepped back, holding up a hand. Look, man, I didn't know. I swear. She made me think. I shook my head. I didn't blame him. Not really. He was just another chess piece she played with until it suited her to toss him aside. I stood there in the rain, the water soaking through my jacket, feeling the weight of it all settle on my shoulders. The marriage. The lies. The years wasted building a future she was burning down behind my back. There was no fixing it. There was no talking it out. There was only one thing left to do. I thanked Tyler for the proof, for the truth, for at least trying to set things right, and walked away, my mind already cold and clear. Ashley wanted a war? She was about to get one. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. Instead, I sat at my desk, Tyler's messages open on my laptop, the voice recordings from Ashley's car playing over and over until her voice became background noise, hollow, meaningless, disgusting. Every I love you, every empty laugh, every knife she slid between my ribs without even blinking. I let it wash over me. I didn't cry. I didn't punch walls. I planned. If Ashley and her mother wanted to paint me as the villain, fine. I would let them. I would be the villain in a way they never saw coming. Clean. Precise. Unforgiving. I made 3 phone calls before sunrise. Each one short. To the point. Each one setting a piece into place. By the time the sun clawed its way over the horizon, my marriage was already dead. All that was left was the burial. I waited until noon before I made my move. I wanted her comfortable. Relaxed. Still thinking she was in control. I knew she was home, her car was in the driveway, and Diane's was parked right behind it like a guard dog ready to bark at anything that moved. Perfect. I didn't knock when I walked into the house. My name was still on the mortgage. I didn't owe them that courtesy. Ashley was curled up on the couch in her favorite sweats, hair tied back like she hadn't a care in the world. Diane was sitting in the armchair, legs crossed, a smug little smile on her face like she was waiting for a show. They both looked up when I entered, and the change was immediate. Ashley straightened. Diane's smile sharpened into something meaner. Here to apologize? Diane asked sweetly, venom dripping under every word. I ignored her. Walked straight to the coffee table, placed 2 thick envelopes down with a satisfying slap against the wood. One for Ashley. One for Diane. Ashley stared at them like they were grenades. What's this? She snapped. Proof, I said. Since you both seem so invested in playing the victim. Ashley snatched her envelope first, tearing into it with shaky hands. Photos spilled out, printouts of the messages, screenshots of the voice recordings, even a copy of the private investigator's report I had pulled together in less than a day once I knew where to look. Diane grabbed hers slower, more cautious, like she already knew what she'd find and hated herself for being curious. The room filled with the sound of flipping papers and strained breathing. Ashley's face changed in real time, from smug to confused to horrified to furious, cycling so fast it was almost funny. Almost. She shot up from the couch, waving the papers in my face. You spied on me? She shrieked. You disgusting, controlling. I didn't flinch. Didn't move. Just let her scream, her words bouncing uselessly off the armor I had built overnight. You ruined yourself, I said calmly. All I did was collect the wreckage. Diane stood up too, voice shrill and shaking now. This won't hold up anywhere. You think you can just walk away after violating her privacy? You'll lose everything. I'll make sure of it. I smiled then. A real, slow, dangerous smile. Because that was the final card they hadn't seen coming. I already filed, I said. Divorce. Fault-based. Adultery and conspiracy. My lawyer's filing the paperwork as we speak. Ashley's mouth dropped open. Diane's hands curled into fists. And guess what? I continued. You both gave me more than enough to protect myself. Every lie, every manipulation, every disgusting little trick you tried to pull, it's documented. Witnessed. Legally. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a deadly whisper. You wanted to destroy me. Instead, you handed me everything I needed to bury you. Ashley looked like she was about to throw something. Her face twisted into a mask of pure hatred, the real her finally boiling over where anyone could see it. You're nothing without me, she hissed. You'll die alone in some disgusting apartment while I move on with my life. I didn't blink. Didn't even breathe. Good, I said. At least I'll finally be living in the real world. Not the fantasy you built out of lies and betrayal. I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving them standing in the ruins they created, surrounded by the ashes of every lie they had told. I didn't slam the door behind me. I didn't have to. The damage was done, and this time it wasn't mine to clean up. You'd think after a scene like that, after getting crushed with her own lies laid out in front of her, Ashley would finally retreat. Maybe even shrink into the shadows with whatever was left of her pride. But no. Ashley wasn't built like that. When rats get cornered, they don't run. They bite. It started that same night. Around midnight. When the world was asleep and the streets outside my temporary apartment buzzed with nothing but faraway city sounds. My phone lit up. Blocked number. I let it ring. Then again. And again. I silenced it, turned it face down, tried to shut it out, until a message popped up on the screen. You can't get rid of me that easy. No name attached, but it didn't need one. I could smell her desperation through the glass. I leaned back in the cracked leather chair by the window, staring out at the glowing skyline. Ashley wasn't trying to win me back. She wasn't trying to apologize. She was trying to keep control. 20 minutes later, another message. You owe me everything. You think you're the victim? You're a joke. Everyone's going to know who you really are. She wanted to bait me. She wanted a reaction she could screenshot, twist into another sick little story for her friends, her mother, maybe even some lawyer desperate enough to listen. I didn't answer. I wouldn't give her a single word. The next day, I learned how far she was willing to sink. My boss called me into his office. Gray-haired, serious guy. Someone I'd known for years. Trusted. He didn't beat around the bush. There's been a complaint, he said, sliding a thin manila folder across the desk. Anonymous tip. Claims of aggressive behavior. Domestic issues. It didn't take a genius to put the pieces together. Ashley's fingerprints were all over it. I opened the folder. Inside, copies of emails, half-truths stitched together with lies, designed to make me look like a ticking bomb. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so calculated. She didn't just want to ruin the marriage. She wanted to take everything else down with it. I looked my boss in the eye and handed him a copy of the same folder I had given Ashley and Diane, only updated. With timestamps. With witness statements. With Tyler's affidavit explaining what Ashley had told him about me. It was enough. More than enough. By the time I walked out of that office, my job was safe, but the truth weighed heavier than ever. Ashley had declared war. Not because she wanted me back. Because she couldn't stand the idea of losing control of the story. She couldn't be the villain. She had to be the victim, even if she had to burn the world down to make it happen. Later that night, another knock at my door. Not the police. Not some lawyer. Ashley herself. Standing there, soaked from the rain, mascara bleeding down her cheeks like some sad movie scene she was trying to direct herself. I didn't open the door. She pounded on it, screamed at me through the wood, called me every name she could scrape from her poisoned little mind. You think you're better than me? She shrieked. You think you can just leave me like trash? I sat on the couch, calm, the recorder on my phone running, collecting every word she didn't realize she was handing me. After 20 minutes, she gave up. Or so I thought. A minute later, another bang, not on the door this time, but on the window. She was throwing rocks. Like some deranged parody of a romantic movie gone rotten. I called the building security. They dragged her away screaming, soaked and shaking, spitting threats that made the hair on my neck stand up. And even as they hauled her off the property, even as the rain washed her makeup clean off her face, I realized something. Ashley wasn't afraid of being alone. She was afraid of being irrelevant. Forgotten. And after everything she had done, every knife she had twisted, every lie she had told, that's exactly what I was going to make her. Nothing. A ghost fading into the background of a life she had no part in anymore. The fallout from that night should have been enough. Normal people would have tucked their tails between their legs and disappeared after getting dragged off by security in front of half the building. But Ashley? She wasn't wired for retreat. She needed to win, even if the only prize left was the smoking wreckage of everything we ever built. 2 days later, another attack. A certified letter hand-delivered. An accusation ugly, vicious, absolutely fake. Ashley had filed for a restraining order against me. In her statement, she painted herself as a terrified woman hiding from a volatile and dangerous man who monitored her movements and threatened her safety. She attached photos, old bruises from who knows when, completely unrelated. Screenshots of completely fabricated text messages that made it look like I was stalking her. It was brilliant in a sick, twisted way. Not because it was convincing, it wasn't, not for anyone who actually looked at the timeline, but because it forced me into a defensive position. It made me look guilty by default. I stared at the papers in my hand, feeling the last remnants of disbelief burn away. Ashley wasn't just fighting dirty. She was trying to annihilate me. But she had made one fatal mistake. She underestimated how ready I was to end this. Not just defensively, but offensively. The next morning, I met with my lawyer. Not the quiet family attorney we had used for our will, back when I still believed in forever. No, I hired a shark. Someone who loved the smell of blood in the water. We laid it all out. The recordings, the witness testimonies, the messages from Tyler, the fake harassment reports, even the security footage from my building showing her pounding on my door and throwing rocks at my windows after midnight. And we filed. Not just a response to her restraining order, we filed for full damages. Defamation, emotional distress, malicious prosecution. I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to drag her so deep into the mud that not even her mother could polish it clean. The court date was set. Fast. Ashley's confidence didn't waver when she first walked into that courthouse. She wore it like armor. Expensive dress, perfect makeup, fake tears trembling at the edge of her voice. She gave her testimony like she was reciting lines from a movie she thought she had written. All tragedy and brave little smiles and shaking hands. It might have worked, if not for what happened next. First, Tyler testified. Calm, devastatingly honest. He explained everything. How she manipulated him, how she lied about me, how she carefully planted stories with everyone she could to protect her image. Then came the security footage, projected onto a giant screen in the courtroom. There she was. Not the scared little rabbit she tried to portray, but a screaming, violent, furious wreck, pounding and throwing and threatening. The silence that filled the room when the video ended was so deep it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Ashley crumbled faster than I expected. No grand speech, no last-minute fake fainting spell, just silence. Her lawyer asked for a recess. They came back 20 minutes later and dropped the restraining order, and every other accusation along with it. The judge didn't just dismiss her claims. He referred her case for investigation, for perjury and filing a false report. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. She destroyed herself. Right there, in front of everyone. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I'd felt in years, while Ashley sat frozen in her chair, her perfect hair trembling, her perfect story finally dead. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even relieved. I was free. Freedom didn't taste the way I thought it would. It wasn't a sweet victory. It wasn't a grand parade through the wreckage Ashley left behind. It was a quiet, heavy thing, like standing alone on a battlefield after the smoke clears, surrounded by the bones of everything you fought to protect. I didn't hear from Ashley for a while after the courtroom disaster. No calls, no emails, no blocked number games. She disappeared, probably licking her wounds, spinning new lies for anyone stupid enough to still listen. I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. New apartment, new routines, new locks. It was exhausting, lonelier than I wanted to admit, but it was clean, honest, real. 2 months passed. Then one evening I was walking back from the grocery store, hands full of cheap takeout and cheap beer, when I saw her. Ashley, leaning against the hood of a car parked across the street from my building. At first, I thought maybe she was waiting for someone else. Maybe coincidence had thrown her back into my orbit one last, cruel time. But when our eyes met, it was obvious. She was waiting for me. I thought about turning around, walking away, pretending she was just another ghost drifting through my past. But I was tired of pretending. I crossed the street slowly, every step deliberate. Ashley didn't move. She wore no makeup this time. No armor. Just jeans and a wrinkled hoodie. She looked smaller, less dangerous, still poisonous, always poisonous. She didn't smile, didn't cry, didn't throw herself at my feet. She just stood there, hands shoved deep into her pockets, eyes dark and unreadable. "You ruined my life," she said, voice low, almost calm. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "I ruined your life?" I said, stepping closer until we were face to face. "You set the match. You built the funeral pyre. All I did was step out of the way while you lit yourself on fire." Her jaw tightened. The rain started again, fine and cold, misting the space between us. "You could have stayed," she said, quieter now. "We could have fixed it." The audacity of it almost knocked the breath out of me. "You didn't want to fix it, Ashley," I said. "You wanted someone to bury the evidence while you kept digging the grave." She opened her mouth like she had something clever to say, some last desperate excuse, some final dagger, but nothing came out, because there was nothing left. Nothing between us but ash and memory and 100 broken promises. "I loved you," she said finally, the words hollow, almost an afterthought. "No," I said, stepping back. "You loved the way I loved you. You loved the way I made you feel. But you never loved me." And with that I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Ashley stood there under the streetlight, fading into the mist, smaller and smaller with every step I took toward the life she would never be part of again. The real finality of it didn't hit until I reached my apartment and locked the door behind me. It was over. Not just the marriage. The hold she had over me. The guilt. The regret. The endless questioning of whether I could have saved it or saved her or saved myself. Some things are meant to burn. And sometimes the only way to survive is to let them. For a few weeks after that night, the world finally felt stable again. I got used to the silence. Got used to breathing without waiting for another attack. The days blended together, work, home, rebuilding routines, like stitching up a wound you could still feel throbbing underneath, but at least it was closing. I started sleeping through the night again. Started imagining a future that didn't have Ashley's name written all over it like some curse. And then, just when I thought the storm had passed, the last strike hit. It didn't come from Ashley herself this time. It came in the form of a letter. Formal, cold, expensive-looking paper that almost smelled like perfume. Inside was a bill. A real one. From her lawyer. Demanding restitution for the emotional damage she claimed I had caused her, citing loss of social standing, career opportunities, and mental health decline, all because I dared to defend myself. She was suing me. Not for the house. Not for money we shared. For revenge. It was almost impressive in a disgusting, soulless way. She had nothing left, and still she tried to claw something from me with bloody fingernails and delusion. I sat at my kitchen table, turning the letter over in my hands, feeling an old, familiar anger trying to crawl back up my throat. But it didn't win this time. I wasn't that man anymore. Instead, I picked up my phone and called my lawyer, the same one who already had a file thicker than a phone book on Ashley's lies. Within 2 days, the lawsuit wasn't just dismissed. It was turned against her. We filed a countersuit so brutal, so airtight, it made her original claims look like a tantrum scratched in crayon. Defamation. Malicious prosecution. Emotional abuse. We had timelines. We had witnesses. We had evidence she couldn't erase, no matter how many crocodile tears she cried. The court didn't just deny her request for money. They slapped her with fees. Thousands of dollars. More money than she had left to her name after months of hiding, lying, bleeding herself dry in one final, pathetic war she could never win. The last email I got from my lawyer had a single sentence at the end: "Ms. Redacted has agreed to drop all further actions. No further contact is expected. No apologies. No confessions. Just a cold, quiet surrender." It wasn't satisfying the way you might expect. There were no trumpets, no victory laps. Just a silence that finally felt clean, not tense or broken, not like waiting for the next knife in the back. I deleted the email, closed my laptop, and walked out into the evening. The air smelled like rain. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder if Ashley was somewhere out there, plotting, waiting, watching. It didn't matter. She could scratch and scream and throw herself against the walls of the world as much as she wanted. I was already gone. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It didn't come with a new love story waiting in the wings, or some magical realization that everything had happened for a reason. Freedom came slowly, like sunlight through a broken window, came in pieces. At first, I still caught myself looking over my shoulder in parking lots. Still caught myself hesitating before answering unknown numbers, before trusting the silence. It's not easy to scrub someone like Ashley out of your life. She wasn't just a person. She was a virus that had sunk into every part of my world. The way I spoke, the way I moved, the way I thought about myself. Healing wasn't pretty. There were nights where the anger came back like a fire I couldn't put out. Nights when I replayed every conversation, every lie, wondering how I could have been so blind. There were mornings I hated myself more than I hated her, for staying too long, for believing too much, for trying to build something real with someone who only ever wanted power. But there was progress too. Small things. A new routine at the gym. Late-night walks when the world was quiet. Conversations with friends that didn't involve explaining or defending myself. The world got bigger again. And slowly, the space she used to take up all that noise, all that rot shrank. She didn't own my nights anymore. She didn't own my fears. The last time I thought about her, really thought about her, was when I was driving past a little roadside diner outside the city. For a second, just a flicker, I remembered how she used to sit across from me in places like that, laughing too loud, pretending the world belonged to her. And for the first time, the memory didn't hurt. It didn't burn. It didn't even matter. Ashley wasn't the villain of my story anymore. She wasn't anything. She was a lesson. A scar. Proof that survival wasn't about getting back what you lost, it was about learning to live without needing it at all. If you're reading this and you're in the middle of your own storm, if you're staring down the wreckage of a relationship poisoned by lies, betrayal, manipulation, hear this. You don't have to win the war. You don't have to burn their world down to feel whole again. You just have to leave. Leave and rebuild, and understand that the strongest thing you'll ever do is walk away without looking back. They don't deserve your rage. They don't deserve your sadness. They deserve your absence. And trust me, nothing will ever destroy them faster than the sound of your silence.